4 days before the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. We talked yesterday about how Jesus comes into Jerusalem on Monday, and we know this as the triumphal entry of Jesus Christ. But every time I read the story of Jesus coming into Jerusalem, I don't find it to be as triumphant as that name suggests. In fact, as Jesus comes into Jerusalem, the people are cheering and they're shouting and they're joyful. But Jesus isn't excited. He's weeping. In fact, he's crying intensely as you really look at the wording and you look at what this passage is telling us. And the people are proclaiming Jesus as the one. And they're right about who he is. But they're very wrong about how he takes his throne, what it is that he's come to do as he's there present riding into Jerusalem. So as the people proclaim Jesus as the one, Jesus proclaims judgment on the people. It really is quite the scene when you understand what's happening and look at the words that Jesus says. But before we get to that point, Jesus has awoke in Bethany, and he has a 2-mile journey from there into Jerusalem. And he sends ahead of him 2 of his disciples to go into Bethphage to get an unridden colt. And Jesus tells them all the details of what's going to happen. You're going to find this colt. This is what you're going to say when they question you about it. And everything goes exactly as Jesus said that it would, because he's God. We know that. Now the apostles bring this colt back, and Jesus gets on this colt and he rides it into Jerusalem. This massive crowd that's in Jerusalem waiting for this one to come, and the one that they're proclaiming to be the king and who would establish his reign and his throne, and they're thinking he's going to free them from Roman oppression. Here comes Jesus riding in before this multitude on a colt, an unridden colt. This fulfills Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9. Matthew chapter 21, verses 4 and 5. Matthew reveals to us that this is the fulfillment of Zechariah's words. And so Jesus is fulfilling prophecy as he comes in on this Monday morning before this multitude and this crowd. Now, Luke chapter 19 gives us some really important details as we walk through this entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. In fact, 19 verse 38, Luke tells us what the crowd was saying. And the summation of that is their cries of exaltation are proclaiming that Jesus is the one that comes in the name of the Lord. They're saying that Jesus bears the full authority of God as the Messiah. When they say Jesus is the Messiah, they're focused on him coming to give peace to God's people. Now here's the thing. All of that is correct. As Jesus rides into town and the people proclaim these shouts of who he is, they're right in what they're saying. But Jesus didn't come to give them peace from Rome. He came to give sinful man peace with God. And as they proclaim who he is, they have the wrong understanding of what he's come to do. And that leads to some of the reason that Christ is here in tears as he rides into this city. The peace that Christ came to bring, peace with God, it required satisfaction of that holy God's wrath. And so this loud, unified proclamation of the crowd, proclaiming that Jesus is this one that's come, is this great Messiah, it infuriates the religious leaders. The leaders of the Jews are so angry at what these people are shouting. They even ask Jesus to silence them. And Jesus says, absolutely not. If they don't, the rocks will cry out. This is clear that Christ is coming into the city, and God is using the proclamation of this multitude, this crowd, to infuriate the religious leaders and move them towards quick plan of action so that they will put Jesus to death this coming Friday. They want Jesus dead. But now, as the people are honoring him as the Messiah, it will cause them to spring into action and quickly accomplish God's will as they'll crucify him on Nisan 14. So as Jesus rides into this city and the crowd proclaims who he is, Jesus is going to show them in just a few short days at what he came to do as he suffers and dies as the Savior of the world.